Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we're back with another deck tech. I know it's been a minute since we've done a deck tech because we've been doing a ton of different content, but today we are going to be talking about Green Devotion Aggro. So I'm really excited to share this list with you. I think it's going to be a really fun list to talk about. I've been enjoying playing it recently, and now I'm going to share it with you. So as always, in the comments below, let me know, what did you like about the list? What did you not like about the list? Is there changes you would make? Is there a deck that you'd like to see in the next deck series? So, okay, so Pioneer Mono Green Devotion Aggro. So, for those who keep up with the competitive Pioneer metagame, Mono Green Devotion is probably the best deck. You could certainly make that argument. So this is a Green Devotion deck, but it's not going in on a combo, you know, where you need to get your walkers, you need to get, you know, the Pestilent Cauldron. This is just play your creatures, turn them sideways, and you're getting value out of Nykthos Shrine to Nyx to power out bigger threats. That's essentially what this deck is. So we're going to go over it today. Just as a little bit of a disclaimer, I'm still working on the deck. If I make any big future changes, I'll be sure to share those with you. I also share decks on Twitter a lot, so if you want to follow me at Commander_Crane on Twitter, you can also check me out there. So, okay, Devotion Aggro. We're going to hop right into it. So, creatures 35. There's a lot of creatures in this deck. So, yeah, we got plenty of them to go over with. It's going to be great. So, as always, 4 Elvish Mystic and 4 Land of War Elves. It's mana ramp. It's mana ramp to get our creatures out quicker. Very, very important to keep hands with a Land of War Elvish Mystic. 4 Sylvan Caryatid, almost like a backup elf in a way. It's an 0/3 for green and 1, defender and hexproof. You can tap it for 1 mana of any color. It's just a great hexproof creature to be able to protect ourselves, essentially. So 3 Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia. For those who watched the Gruul Defiler aggro video, you'll know this from there. So Gwenna, kind of an unknown card from the Brothers War. It's a 2/3 for 2 and a green, legendary elf druid scout. You can tap it for 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of a creature or creature card. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, put a +1/+1 counter on Gwenna and untap it. So this card is just really, 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 really good. So with Gwenna, the fact of her being able to make that much mana is awesome, and the fact that she untaps whenever we cast something big means there's some games where we can just start chaining big creatures. So like tap it for 2 green and a forest, play a Steel Leaf, untap it, tap, couple more mana, slam another creature, untap Gwenna, and attack. So Gwenna is really, really, really good in this deck. We're playing a lot of 3-drops, and she's one of the best ones. If you can play it turn 2, most of the time it's going to be the best turn 2 play over the other cards we're going to be talking about. So now we have 4 Old Growth Troll. 4/4 for green, green, green with trample. When Old Growth Troll dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield. It's an aura enchantment with enchant forest you control, and essentially the forest can tap for 2 green mana, or you can tap 1, tap, sacrifice the forest, create a tapped 4/4 green troll. So Old Growth Troll is just really, really, really good. The nice thing about it is it adds 3 green pips, but also if it dies, it ramps us a little bit, and we can just get another 4/4 troll at a later time if we need one. So Old Growth Troll, extremely efficient. It's unfortunately not 5 power, which doesn't power up our Gwenna, but Old Growth Troll is just still that good, and it's also going to be nice with the 4 power with another card that we're going to talk about in a bit. 4 Steel Leaf Champion, 5/4 for green, 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 Elf Knight. Steel Leaf Champion can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Why have they made that a keyword? I couldn't tell you. But Steel Leaf Champion is probably the second best thing to be playing on turn 2. But it's still great turn 1 if you just want to get your opponent out of the game. Obviously, having a 5/4 that can't be chump blocked is incredible. Really good rate. 3 green pips again, which is really great for our Nykthos to get that devotion going. So, Nykthos, sorry, well, yes, Nykthos, but Steel Leaf Champion, great card. I really love playing Steel Leaf Champion in this list. Then we have one Questing Beast. So the story with Questing Beast is we had one slot left. I wanted it to be a creature in the 4-drop slot, so I decided to play Questing Beast. So 4/4 for green, green, and 2, Legendary Beast, Vigilance, Death Touch, and Haste. Questing Beast can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you control can't be prevented. And whenever Questing Beast deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to target planeswalker that player controls. So it's just a wall of text. It's really good. It's just good. I don't even know what else to say about Questing Beast. Questing Beast is an absolutely awesome card. I love playing it. It's just house. So, to Surek the Hunt Caller. 5/4 for green, green, 2, legendary human with Formidable. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater, target creature you control gains haste until end of turn. So, green granting haste is not a common effect at all. But the fact that having it in a card like Surek is amazing. So, couple things about Surek. The only thing I'll go over real quick, I want to talk more about Surek toward the end of the video. But essentially, it's great with Gwenna because it's power 5 or greater. So being able to pump out Surek and have Formidable at combat is incredible. So next, for Defiler of Vigor. 6/6 for 3 in green, green for a Phyrexian Worm with Trample. As an additional cost to cast green permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost green less to cast if you paid life this way. Whenever you cast a green permanent spell, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So, long story short, Defiler Vigor gets out of hand very, 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 very fast. If you untap with Defiler Vigor, there's a very, very strong chance that your opponent is probably just dead that turn or very, very close to it. So, being able to just like make all your spells, all your permanents cost 1 green less can be really, really great for your curve. In addition to that, being able to anthem your board, you can get to the point where, even as something as small as an Elvish Mystic, you know, if you untap with it, with Defiler Vigor, then you go big creature, trigger, you know, another thing, trigger. All of a sudden your elves, they're turning into 3/3s, 4/4s, 5/5s. They're getting aggressive. They're good creatures to actually attack with. So, which is something that most payoffs don't really do that. They don't make all your, like, smaller dorks relevant. A lot of the time, because your dorks, like, all of a sudden, like, the big beefies are getting in there, and the elves are just kind of chilling, making mana. But at that point, if you don't need them to make mana, they're getting in there. They're turning sideways, and it turns them into a card that they have to answer. So, for Defiler Vigor, it's our only 5-drop. Awesome card. So 3 Tyrant X Rex. So everybody who's been watching the channel recently knows how excited I am about this card. As of the day of the recording, this is the Monday after the pre-release. So I just got my copies in the mail. I'm really excited to be able to start playing this card in Pioneer. So for those who don't know what it does, it's an 8/8 for 4 green, green, green Phyrexian Dinosaur. This spell can't be countered. Trample, Toxic 4, Ward 4, and Haste. Enough said. This card is one of the best curved... It's technically the biggest curve topper. It's not the biggest curve topper, but it's the main curve topper in our deck. It's incredible. This card hits so hard. It's hard to remove. Makes your opponent not really like their life choices at that current moment, generally. It's just really good. Funny enough, it's actually the most expensive card in this deck besides the Nykthoses, technically, for like in terms of like how many you need, which is kind of interesting, but this card's going to go down a lot more, don't worry. So, our biggest creature in here is Ghalta Primal Hunger. So what I meant by curve topper is Tyrant X Rex is 7 mana. Ghalta is really 2. Ghalta is really only 2 mana. It's not 12. The 10 is just an illusion. So, Ghalta Primal Hunger is 10 generic in green-green for a 12/12. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control, and it has Trample. So essentially, if we have 10 power worth of creatures, we could pay 2 green and put this into play. A very interesting note. If we're in Magical Christmas Land and it's snowing, we can go turn 1 Elvish Mystic, turn 2 Gwenna, turn 3, play our 3rd land, we can tap out. So 5, 3, and just Gwenna. Actually, we don't even need the Land Wealth. We can go play Defiler Vigor, trigger, untap our Gwenna, tap it for 2 green, play Galta, untap Gwenna, and attack with it. Technically that turn, and getting 1 more counter on the Land Wealth, the Defiler, and another counter on the Gwenna. So of course that's kind of Magical Christmas Land, but essentially Galta Primal Hunger is amazing in this deck. It's just so good. I considered playing was it the Great Henge, but essentially we wanted more beats, and we also wanted more creatures because of our last card, the only non-creature in the entire deck, See the Unwritten. So See the Unwritten is 4 green for a sorcery. Reveal the top 8 cards of your library. You may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest into your graveyard. But it is ferocious. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, not as you're casting the spell, when the spell resolves, you may put 2 creatures onto the battlefield instead. So, similar to the Green Devotions list, Storm the Festival, where you look at the top 5 and you can put 2 permanents with CMC 5 or less in play. This is 6 mana, the same cost. Reveal 8 cards, so we get 3 more looks, and we just put creatures into play. Yeah, we don't get to put a Planeswalker, but that means it's not just converted mana cost 5 or less. This is just any creature. So realistically, we can put Tyrant X Rex and Galta into play. We can put Surak and Galta in play. Go to combat, give Galta haste to be able to get in there right away with all of our big creatures. See the Unwritten is absolutely incredible. I love playing See the Unwritten. Part of the reason I wanted to build this deck was because of See the Unwritten. We're just playing 2 of them. I wanted to play 3, but I decided to just play 2. Card is awesome. I mean, there's a reason why it's the only non-creature we're playing in this deck in the main board. So that is the main list. We're going to go over the lands really quick. It's mono green, nothing too crazy. So we have 1 Beseiju. I'm not going to read Beseiju, but I'm going to give a really brief explanation of it. Green and 1, we can discard it from our hand, destroy an artifact or enchantment or non-basic land opponent controls, and they get a land. It's kind of like an Assassin's Trophy in a way, but can't be countered. It's just a good catch-all. It's free. You're not going to channel a lot. Most of the time you'll play it as a land that you need, but it's still just really good. 1 Castle Garenbrig. Typically don't see this in lists. We don't see it in Mono Green Devotion because they don't play a ton of creatures, whereas in our deck we're playing a lot of creatures. We honestly could go to 2 Castle Garenbrig. Main reason I didn't is because I wanted to have a little bit more consistency with our mana base. It feels really bad if you get your opener and it's like Garenbrig, Nykthos. Feels really bad. So we're just playing 1. So it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a forest. Then you can tap it for green. Then you can tap 2 and 2 green to tap it and add 6 green to your mana pool, but only to cast creatures or activate abilities of creatures. So essentially if for creatures, it makes 2 mana, but we need, to have the 4 and tap the castle. So it can make 2, which is great. 15 forests, they're forests, nothing crazy. 2 Lair of the Hydra, just a really, really great man land for us. If we have all this extra mana, we can pump it, make an XX Hydra, and just, make an 8/8, make it a 10/10, whatever. Just get extra beats. And then we have 4 Nykthos. So we can tap for a colorless, or tap 2 and tap it, choose a color, add to your mana pool an amount of mana of that color equal to your devotion to that color. So what's really great about Nykthos is if we go through all of our cards that we're playing, so 1 green, 1 green, green and 1, green and 2, green, 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 green 2, green, green 2, green, green 3, 4, green, green, green. There's a lot of green in the deck. So we can definitely take advantage of Nykthos. Nykthos is not like the mono green devotion list that you see in Pioneer with the combo list. Nykthos is their combo piece. We don't need Nykthos. Nykthos is essentially in this list. It allows us to be able to cast our Tyrant X Rexes easier, our Galtas easier, our See the Unwrittens, start chaining things with Gwenna. Nykthos is just a good card to have. You don't need to keep a hand with Nykthos or hope that it's in your top cards. You can play a perfectly great game without Nykthos. But that being said, it's still really, really great to play. If you wanted to go maybe more on a budget and you don't want to play the Nykthos, throw in 4 more forests. Deck will still play just fine. So, that is our main board for Mono Green Devotion Aggro. We're going to go over the sideboard. The sideboard's a little still undecided. I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to go in terms of specific matchups, but this is just a good generic sideboard. So, we have 3 Tormod's Crypts. It exiles graveyards. Enough said. We wanted Graveyard Hate. We're playing 3 Tormod's Crypts because we can still play everything on our curve without having to devote a turn to be able to, activate it or cast it. 4 Tail Swipe. Essentially, we wanted removal. I decided to play Tail Swipe because it is instant speed. 1 green instant. Choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. If you cast the spell during your main phase, the creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Then those creatures fight. So, kind of like an unknown card from Dominaria United. What's really funny about this card is if you're playing Llanowar Elves and your opponent's playing Llanowar Elves, you can play your elf and Tail Swipe, and our elf gets +1/+1, so we just kill their elf and keep ours, which is pretty funny. But Tail Swipe, we wanted removal. We're playing 4 of them. Just a great card overall. And then this is a new one of the new cards, Tavar Stand. Green and X instant. Target creature gets +X/+X and gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So, just a really, really great card. It's really interesting. So with Tavar Stand, for those who watched my set review with like my top 5 cards, I always said that Tamiyo Safekeeping was still going to be good, but you'd want Tavar Stand in a deck that has a lot of creatures. Well, we're playing 35 creatures. We want Tavar Stand. It's a protection spell. With Nykthos, it can also be like a game-ending pump spell. It's just a great card in general. Protects against board wipes, protects against spot removal, that kind of thing. So, it also can help us in combat if they go all in on something and boom. Great card to have overall. 3 Damping Spheres. So, if a land is tapped for 2 or more mana, it produces colorless instead. Each spell a player casts costs 1 more to cast for each other spell that players cast this turn. So, I know what you're thinking, but this shuts down our Nykthos. You're right. But if our opponent's playing Mono Green Devotion and Nykthos is their combo piece, that's fine. That's fine. We'll make that trade. We don't have a problem with it. It's also in there a lot for the main reason it's in there is for like Lotus combo. It's also pretty solid against Phoenix. It's not just for Mono Green Devotion. It's a good double, technically triple dipping card. So that's why we're playing 3 Damping Spheres. And then 2 Scavenging Ooze. 2/2 for 2, we can tap a green, exile a card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, put a 1/1 counter on Scavenging Ooze, and you gain 1 life. Couple reasons we're playing this. It's Graveyard Hate, it's life gain, it's really, really great in grindy matchups, and we can hit it off See the Unwritten. Just a great card overall to be playing. And 1 Vivian Reed. I had 1 spot left in the sideboard, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I wanted to play like 1 good like control flex spot. I almost played Nissa, who shakes the world, but I decided to play Vivian Reed instead. So 5 loyalty, green 3, +1. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land from among them and put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom. -3, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. -8. You get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2 and have vigilance, trample, and indestructible. So essentially, you win the game. But Vivian Reed is a really, really great planeswalker in general. Very underrated, especially in a deck like this. You want to bring this in for, like, if you're in a really, really grindy matchup, maybe if you need to take care of some artifacts and enchantments, maybe you could play the Vivian Reed in there as well. But that's essentially what Vivian Reed is looking to do in general. So, this is the list. This is Devotion Aggro. Again, the list is still I'm still figuring out exactly what we want to do, but I think I've got a pretty solid base here. So, once again, sorry, it's been a long day. But if you have any questions about the deck, if you have suggestions or anything, let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for joining me on this episode of Pioneer Deck Tech. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to check out some other ones. I was also going to mention this, but with Ghalta, I recently did a history video on Ghalta Primal Hunger. At the very end of the video, there will be a little link if you want to check out that specific video. It's really cool. It's about 5 minutes long. Talks about the history of Ghalta. So if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and check that out. I'd like to thank everybody for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.